Hi, hello. Welcome to the Fantasy Squad podcast. Come hang with the squad. Presented to you by the Just Good Network. I'm Jalen Parker, joined again by Brandon Toomey and Jasani Deshkin, our other great co-hosts. And we're going to bring you all that hard-hitting fantasy football analysis. So without further ado, let's get this underway. So first, let's talk about some of the shockers, disappointments, and your picks from last week. So uh, we can start with you, Brandon. Who either shocked you or disappointed you, or who was, someone who you picked to do well or bad, and they kind of either did what you thought or they surprised you?
I'll start with one of my starts I did last week that I completely whiffed on. That would be I actually wanted to sit Smitty last week. I was tired of the production. I was tired of the volume. And then he happens to have a career game last week. I also didn't like the matchup as well, as wasn't the best matchup for receivers. And he puts up a career day. I think he had like 21 points, only 6 receptions, but over 100 yards and a touchdown. So that one really smacked me down. And then a disappointment that I thought was very disappointing this week, which I think a lot of people would agree would be Josh Allen's performance against the Jags. Just overall, completely shocking to see one of the top QBs in the league come in, have one of the softest matchups of all time, and just completely get decimated by basically one player. So big L's for Josh Allen and the Bills and all of the Bills players. I mean, Diggs had a okay day with 15 points, but massive disappointment.
Yeah, it's fair to say that Jags Josh Allen won the Josh Allen Bowl, which you wouldn't have expected. That's probably going to go down as one of the shockers of the NFL season, I think.
Yeah,
because I don't think anyone had Jags winning that game. So yeah, no, I fully agree with that one. What about you, Jasani? Who you got for us?
One of the people that I got kind of right was Miles Gaskin. He had an all right day. I mean, not so much on the ground. He had 20 rushes for 34 yards, so that was pretty terrible. But he saved his day with a touchdown, and he did pretty decent in the receiving department. So overall, I mean, he got the numbers that you kind of expect. You can not really that mad at that Miles Gaskin got to like 15, 16 points in PPR league. So yeah, I would say he took advantage of the matchup against Houston.
Yeah. The ground efficiency was. If you would have told someone that Miles Gaskin was going to get 20 carries, they would have been like, "Oh, finally, he's going to eat this game," because that's always been the issue is that they don't give him the ball, and it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, he did that with those 20 carries." But hey, points are points, You're never going to complain too much about how you get them. Even if your guy can't run on the Texans at all, but the Texans have been fairly decent against the run all season long, right?
Yeah, surprisingly.
they've been better than expected.
Yeah.
They haven't been good.
They were the worst last season. That's
Yeah,
why
every time Derek played them, I was like, yeah, he's getting 200. That was a guarantee.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And so you both talked about one of your guys. Let's go into someone. Yeah. So what's another name you have to bring up, Brandon?
Another disappointment this last week, I thought, would be both of the Cowboys wide receivers, CD Lamb and Amari Cooper. Big L's. I think CD Lamb had two catches on 9 targets for 23 yards, so 4 points there. And then Amari Cooper had 2 catches on 5 targets for 37 yards, about 5 points there. Terrible, considering that it wasn't a terrible matchup for them. You expect more from one of the highest passing offenses in the league. So to have both of the stud wide receivers, both dud, huge disappointment, very shocking to me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, CeeDee Lamb only converting 2 of 9 targets. And it looked like it was an exploitable matchup. I know Pat Surtain got hurt in the game, and he's going to be out for a couple of weeks with a knee sprain, I believe. But yeah, I mean, how do you feel about you're not fading them at all again though this week upcoming with the matchup
No.
with the Falcons?
No, not with the Atlanta matchup. I mean, you still got to roll them out. You got to expect the best. That offense does have a lot of question marks on it in terms of a lot of them are questionable right now, meaning Zeke and Amari Cooper. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes as the week goes on.
Yeah,
But yeah, starting both.
That game has that high scoring potential shootout that you might just want all the pieces of it you can get. In all honesty,
yeah, even like Tony Pollard might be at play.
Yeah. What about you, Jasani? Who's another name you'd like to bring up from the past week?
Disappointing for me was Aaron Jones. He only had 34 yards 53 yards rushing. So yeah, he only had like 5 or 8 points in fantasy this week, which is pretty disappointing against Kansas City. Their run defense and the defense overall is just pretty bad. And I really thought that with Aaron Rodgers being out and them having Jordan Love, they're really going to rely on the run game. But that just wasn't the case for some reason. Yeah, Aaron Jones was pretty disappointing.
Yeah, they played like they still had Rodgers, I guess. And
Jordan Love is pretty disappointing too.
Yeah, thankfully the coaching staff is taking a lot of responsibility for it. They said they did him no favors with the game plan they called, which
I'm sure they'll take the blame. They don't want people to be calling their future Rodgers replacement trash because he was trash. But yeah, we'll take the blame this time. I swear.
But even watching that game, the 2 times that Jordan Love targeted Aaron Jones out of the backfield, they were the most off-target throws, and he was under pressure. I mean, that Kansas City Chiefs defense, I think they blitzed him like 54% of the time, which that's a disgusting amount of time to send to blitz, you know. But yeah,
it worked every time.
Yeah,
so.
And it's crazy because, if Mason Crosby didn't miss those kicks that game, and if they didn't muff a punt, they might have beaten the Chiefs because that was another thing you could say. That was a very disappointing game for the Chiefs, too. A lot of the players involved with that game as well.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they got Aaron Rodgers plays that game. It's fair to say that the Packers kind of whooped them, probably.
Probably. I mean, I don't know what the Chiefs are doing right now. I don't know how you diagnose their issues right now.
Yeah, because at first it just looked like it was, they're just hitting a little slump, but now it's like
it's like, oh, those 50-50 balls are not really falling their way. Like, oh no. But now it's like, all right, it's been 4 weeks in a row of pretty bad production.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Jasani? Do you have another shocker or disappointment that you would like to? Or, I mean, you, Brandon. I think you're up next.
Yeah, I got a shocker I want to bring up. That's George Kittle. I mean, it shouldn't really be a shocker that he put up a great game, but the fact that this is his first game back, and this year he hasn't been really that tight end one that you've really wanted him to be. And his first game back from injury, he puts up a huge tight end one game. Was very nice to see, very refreshing for the eyes to see him back in the game, 100-yard receiving game, in his first game back. So excited to see Kittle back in action.
Yeah, no, I think he was the tight end one on the week, right?
He might have been, yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I feel like the only other person that might have been competing was Freiermuth. I don't think maybe
he did have 2 touchdowns, so I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, Kittle, especially even first game back from injury, and everyone was saying he's only going to play half the snaps. I still don't know what the snap count's looking like, but I didn't start him in some of my leagues because I was worried about that. I started Hunter instead, and so yeah.
Hopefully, so now he's ramped back up, full start every week.
Do you think this is a sign of things to come, or do you think he might revert back to how he was being kind of disappointing earlier in the season, and you'd be looking to maybe try to capitalize?
Well, I think it's a sign of things to come. I think he will be utilized heavily in this offense with Debo. I think he's nursing a little bit of an ankle injury right now, so maybe Debo is known to be pretty injury prone. Not calling for an injury, but he does seem to be a little banged up at the moment. And then Brandon Ayuk might be considerably out of the doghouse after this last week, but I still think George Kittle is going to be used quite a bit in the upcoming weeks. And he's a matchup nightmare. He's a tight end. Like who you gonna put on him? So
Yeah. And Brandon Ayuk will be a name that we'll be talking about later as well.
I don't want to talk about him.
So what about you, Jasani? Do you have another shocker, disappointment, start sit that you would like to bring up? And then after that, we'll dive into starts and sits for this upcoming week.
Yeah, shock I had was obviously James Conner. He went absolutely crazy against San Francisco. It just shocked me just because, I mean, James Conner and Pittsburgh was just never really that good. And I thought he was super touchdown dependent. But this past week, I mean, he had 21 carries, 96 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then he had 77 yards receiving and another touchdown. So if you start James Conner, you got like over 40 points on your fantasy teams. That was awesome. And with Chase Edmonds going down, he might be that dude in the backfield. But I mean, I don't know if this is just a blip or he's gonna be able to carry this over. San Francisco's kind of like in a dumpster fire right now. I don't really know what Kyle Shanahan is doing. But next week he's playing against Carolina, and they're also a dumpster fire, but their defense is pretty good. So I don't think he's going to have the same performance.
Yeah, no. That Chase Edmonds injury, have they already talked about whether or not it's going to be a multi-week absence or anything like that?
Yeah, it's multi-week. It's high ankle sprain.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Connor should be the lock and load RB1 for that team moving forwards. But yeah, we'll see if this is that's another name we'll talk about again later, and see if this is a flip in the radar, or maybe he's that guy now for somehow. But yeah, so now we'll go to you, Brandon, and we'll start with the starts and sits for this upcoming week. And so starting with you, who's the first player you would like to mention?
I'm gonna go with the start, and I'm gonna go with Myles Gaskin. It's never a beautiful person you want to put into your starting lineup, but I think this week especially, if you're struggling for running backs, I think he's a full go. Just seeing 20 carries, like Jasani said earlier in the show, 20 carries and I believe 6 targets through the air. That alone, if he gets that kind of volume, is an RB2 floor. Like what more could you really ask for? So if he just happens to get in the end zone, he did this last week, I think he can have a pretty good week. He's going against Baltimore, who is 24th against running backs. And I think this is a guy that, regardless of the QB situation, whether Tua is in or not, I think you're going to be safe starting Gaskin because he is used in the passing game. He might see 10 targets. He might not. But I think he's going to see at least 5 targets and at least 15 carries. So he's a full start for me. Myles Gaskin.
Yeah. You just got to watch out for Ahmed to come back. I think Malcolm Brown's on IR, correct?
Yes.
So I'm glad that there's a name that's been removed that shouldn't have been in there in the first place. And all.
Yeah. And I mean, Myles Gaskin hasn't really been lights out by any means, but
yeah,
he is the best guy they have.
Yeah. All right. But yeah, no, I like it. All right. So moving on to you, Jasani, give us another name that you think is going to be productive this week.
Yeah, I'll actually give you 2. I'm going to say both the Broncos running backs. They've somehow been productive with having a perfectly split committee. I mean, they average just about the same amount of touches, or if one gets a little less touches, then he usually has maybe more yards than the other. I don't know how they're making it work, but they both seem to be both happy with the roles they have. I definitely do think they like Javonte a lot more than Melvin, but I mean, they're keeping Melvin happy, so if you can have 2 and save out his legs, then why not? Last week, Melvin had 21 carries for 80 yards and a touchdown, and Javonte had 17 carries for 111 yards, but he didn't score a touchdown. So you're happy with both production, really. So I think you can really pick either one. At this point, I would rate Melvin higher than Javonte just because he's a more experienced back. I think he gets more to goal line work and things like that. He's a higher rated running back, but I don't think you can be disappointed with starting Javonte if you don't have both.
Yeah, no, Melvin usually is the one who finds his way into the end zone. I think Javonte has looked better. I think he's more efficient with his carries. But I mean, there's been enough carries to go around for both of them to be productive. Teddy Two Gloves loves to throw checkdowns too, so they both get decent passing game work as well. And so
Yeah.
Mhm.
it works, but
And they have a cake. Who's their matchup again?
they're
Philly.
yeah.
Yeah. You don't run on them.
Yeah. Okay. And so what's another name for starts that you have, Brandon, that you like?
Before I bring up this next guy, I'm gonna ask you guys a question. Do you guys think that with Chubb being probably out this week, that Dearness Johnson is just like a full go, or do you guys have any reservations there?
Did he clear his COVID test?
Chubb, I think he has to clear his COVID test
Well,
twice, right?
Yeah, he has to test negative within like 24 hours apart of the test. But I think their whole running back room is having COVID. But I think
No, it's
I
just
think Dearness
Chubb, and I
Johnson is
think
fine.
it's Chubb and Sultan. I think.
okay, because I heard Dearness Johnson had to get tested too, and I think it might have been like a
Yeah.
false positive or something like that. Then I can't remember because they were saying his
Mhm.
status was in doubt too. But yeah, I mean, yeah, start him. They're not going to suddenly put the game in Baker's hands unless they want to lose.
Gonna get Baker and Jarvis's hands, Peoples Jones.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I was just wondering if other people had like reservations to Dearness Johnson or not. But I agree. I think he's a full start. But my real starts of the week, I'm going to go with Mike Williams for a big bounce back week here. He's kind of been on the downs for the last 3 or 4 weeks now. And I think we could kind of attribute that to maybe more matchup game based type production, and that's why he didn't see those big boom weeks. I think this week against Minnesota, he's 28th against wide receivers. I think he is in line to have one of his big boom weeks, 2 touchdown type of games. Along with that, Keenan also is questionable. I'm thinking he's going to play still, but him being questionable might change the game plan a little bit to not give Keenan 13 targets again. But we'll see. I think Mike Williams is in line for a big bounce back week this week against Minnesota.
Yeah, that's another game that you probably want as many pieces as you can get in on that one as well. I mean, the one issue with the Chargers is that their run defense is so bad that teams usually run the ball on them. And so if they aren't converting on 70% of the times that they have the ball, they can kind of be underwhelming because they don't get to have the ball that much since teams are running all over them. But Vikings defense is pretty bad all around. So
Yeah.
they should definitely be able to get theirs. So what's another name that you'd like to bring up, Jasani, for the starts?
I would like to bring up the Steelers tight end Pat Fairmouth. I think that's how you say his name. He's somehow establishing a really good connection with Big Ben. Last week he absolutely torched the Bears. He only had 43 yards, but he had 2 key touchdowns, which is like for a tight end. That's like their touchdowns madness. So like the volume, he has 6 targets, so like that's really good for a tight end. And he's a rookie, so they compared him to Heath Miller. So I mean, and for those that had Heath Miller in the past years, he was a pretty solid tight end for Pittsburgh throughout those years. So yeah, I do think Pat's on the rise up, and if he's available in like 40% of leagues, so if he's still on those waivers, I will pick him up now. I do think he's on the rise.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you said, all you can really hope for is that if you're tight end, I mean, look at how Hunter Henry's been producing in New England. He catches 1 touchdown a game, and he'll have like 20 yards outside of that. So, but you'll take that production from the tight end position in fantasy football, absolutely.
And Eric Ebron, his counterpart on the same team, has been utterly bad. He has not been good at all, and he has been. I think he's nursing an injury right now, so he might be out.
I don't know if he's even been playing the last couple of games. I think he was. I feel like he was inactive last week.
Yeah, he's injured right now, but I think the games he played this year, he's been pretty much unplayable, unusable for Big Ben. So I think Jasani's correct in that it's Fryermuth's team now. I think it's very apparent. So he has nowhere to go but up at this point. As long as and Claypool might be out too, right?
He did get banged up at the end of that game as well.
Yeah, so he might be missing a week as well. So this might be a week where it's literally just Najee and Frymouth and DJ getting all of Big Ben's noodly arm targets. So it might be very fun.
Did you see that one deep throw to James Washington where they run hella far back to get under
that? Where Big Ben throws it with all of his might, like jumps off his body like he's throwing a javelin as far as he can, and it's still like 15 yards short of.
Dude, I thought he was about to launch that. I was like, oh, this is about to be like a 70-yard touchdown or something. That thing went like 30 yards. He had to hustle back to the ball, man.
Yeah, his arm is shoddy, but
okay. Do you have another start that you would like to talk about, Jasani?
Yeah, I want a little more. This guy was one of the guys that I've been kind of smoking on these past couple weeks. I've kind of been down on him, but it's Robert Woods. He's been on the come up these past couple weeks somehow. He's definitely still not on Cooper Kupp level, but he's a solid wide receiver ever since he started. He did that little message out to Sean McVay saying, "Hey, I'm still here." And ever since then, he's been on a steady rise. Last week, he had 10 targets. You definitely take that for 98 yards. I would say he's definitely a solid wide receiver too, high-end wide receiver too, actually, with the amount of targets he gets, and he's on a great offense. So next week, he's playing against San Francisco. They both got embarrassed. Rams got embarrassed by Tennessee. San Francisco got embarrassed by Cardinals. So this should be a great matchup. They should both be giving up their A game. San Francisco is pretty good against the pass, but I mean, I still see Josh Norman out there, so I think it's cookies either way. So I would say you should be able to start Robert Woods with confidence next week.
Yeah, no, that are the Niners. Was that Super Bowl year just aberration? I mean,
but I think Kyle Shanahan is hell overrated.
Yeah, it's becoming more and more apparent, and they were like, why is it that Kyle Shanahan isn't on the hot seat?
It's just because I think he has that Super Bowl cachet, even though he didn't win. He did lead a team to a Super Bowl. Did he?
The team has been hella injured every other year, but you could also kind of put that on Kyle Shanahan. I was seeing it on Reddit, and they were like, they literally pay injury-prone players, and they invest capital into guys that don't stay healthy because they're cheap.
Yeah.
Trey Sermon. Yeah, you get what you pay for it. You knew Raheem Mostert was gonna get hurt. You were hoping he was gonna last more than a quarter.
Yeah, I can't believe I saw that. I saw one hand out the next hand. No, I saw him limping off the field. I was like, that's crazy.
But he still got like a good amount of yards in the short time he played.
Yeah. He still has a. Wait, was he out for the season? What even happened to him?
Season. He like tore his meniscus or something like that.
Oh.
He's out for the year.
We got a comment.
Yeah, we have a question from Domo. Should I trade Tyler Lockett and Michael Carter for James Robinson and Brandon Cooks?
No.
I mean, it depends.
That's not a bad trade.
Yeah,
I'm off Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, I'm off Brandon Cooks as well.
Sure.
I look at it as more of Tyler Lockett and Michael Carter for James Robinson, and I think if I really wanted a running back upgrade, I probably would do that. I'm off Lockett too, even with Russ coming back. In all honesty, but
I mean, James Robinson is hurt. He's coming off an ankle injury.
Yeah,
he didn't play last week. He's questionable this week. So it's just
I would just hold my players.
Yeah,
I think Tyler Lockett should go up with Russ coming back.
Yeah,
and then Michael Carter. I mean, he had a pretty bad week this last week. Probably will have a pretty bad week this week coming up. But I mean, he's not hurt.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. Hey, you can just pick up Carlos Hyde.
Hell no.
I mean, unless Tyrod goes back to before where he was targeting Brandon Cooks almost every play, Brandon Cooks was that dude. But I mean, we all know what Tyrod is.
Yeah, we all know Brandon Cooks doesn't want to be in Houston anymore.
I don't blame him.
That's not a bad trade though. It wouldn't be bad if you did do that.
I just don't know what you'd be gaining by doing that trade.
You're like kind of gaining James Robinson.
Because at one point, Tyler Lockett was like a top 5 wide receiver.
Yeah, but we also all knew that wasn't going to last. And what happened?
Yeah, but I mean, he's going to get those spurts.
Well, Russ got capped for like
you're big on the spurts,
like 6 games, man.
Hey, even before that, I think Tyler Lockett put up a 4 bomb with Russ.
Before that, he was still like 50-50, which is always it. But then with like Russ going out, it turned into not 50-50.
Hey, look, there might be a quarterback controversy brewing in Seattle with Geno playing the way he's been playing the last couple.
Hey man, Lockett went off last week too. Shit.
Yeah. But you're also forgetting about the impending Odell Beckham Jr. coming to eat his target.
Yeah. Chris Carson's supposed to be back there, right? Finally?
Oh, he has a projection for this week. I don't think they've activated him off IR, but he might be practicing again. So
interesting. That might make things interesting. Russ and Chris Carson coming back. The boys back in town. Come on.
The boys are back in town.
He says I need another running back. I have Diggs and Terry with Dalvin at RB with Darrell Williams and Clyde. I really need the upgrade. If J-Rob is healthy, I see him producing. Cook's schedule favorable as well. Yeah, if you have Diggs and Terry and Scary Terry, I mean, I understand why that trade isn't bad. I mean, Brandon Cooks could produce numbers whenever you need to start him. And we would say James Robinson's definitely an upgrade over Michael Carter. And
he probably needs to do that with Dalvin.
Yeah. with make sure you pick up Alexander Madison if you can, just in case.
They definitely should have him. Yeah, you probably should do that. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Could you get something more? I've seen both sides for Dalvin too, and on the Dalvin situation.
Yeah,
so I don't really know what's going on with that either.
I don't know what more you would be able to get. Like a Tyler Lockett, Michael Carter. I think that's a fair trade for him. It's just like you said, the question mark of is James Robinson playing?
Right.
You know, but because I mean, before he got hurt, James Robinson was an RB1 or at least high end RB2. You know.
Yeah, Domo, you probably need to do that trade.
Yeah, I didn't know what his team was looking like.
Yeah, you probably should do that.
Yeah, so now let's dive into sits for this upcoming week. So we can go back to you finished this last with the start. So who's a sit for this upcoming week to you?
Oh,
to me?
Jasani.
Sit for me, unfortunately, will have to be DJ Moore. He's been on a steady decline ever since Sam Darnold reverted back to Jets, Sam Darnold. And now Sam Darnold's out with a shoulder injury. Now PJ Walker, I think his name, is throwing him the ball. I mean, PJ Walker might just target him. Who knows? But, I mean, Sam Darnold, but the problem with him is he just kept turning over the ball to DJ Moore. Well, I mean, like the offense just wasn't on the field because Sam Darnold threw picks every second. He leads the league in picks. I mean, Sam Darnold was just I don't know what happened. He was looking good. Maybe defenses figured him out. Or I mean, I know his O-line is terrible, but still. But yeah, so DJ Moore's been suffering at the hand of his quarterback. So this week, I mean, I've been playing him every week, but this week I might just bite the bullet and sit him this week. I mean, we all know he's gonna go off this week because of it, but I would have to say, yeah, DJ Moore is a sit candidate for this week.
Yeah, I think when I was like looking on the Panthers subreddit, they were like, if you weren't watching, you didn't know that it was literally Christian McCaffrey carrying that offense with so many checkdowns and dump offs the first couple of games. And that was when they were undefeated, and they've lost literally almost every game since, except for the Falcons one.
Yeah, the Falcons. That was barely.
Yeah, I was looking at the NFL.com quarterback rankings, and they said right now Sam Darnold is the worst quarterback in the NFL. And when I looked at the numbers, I couldn't dispute it. I mean, you'd rather have Mike White right now than Sam Darnold. Easy.
Oh, 100%. That's crazy because he's on the Jets. I mean, he's looking like Sam Darnold is a huge buzz.
He's the one guy that did not apply to the Gase effect. He
Yeah,
left
I
Gase
mean,
and became worse somehow.
It's a
It's
critical case theory.
yeah, maybe Gase poisoned him a little too hard. You know, he wasn't a quarterback.
Maybe we owe Gase an apology. We didn't know that he had Sam Darnold up there in the Jets.
Gase is like, see, man,
Maybe he needs
this is what I had to work
He
with.
needs to see it wasn't me.
Maybe he needs a chance. No,
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree. DJ Moore is actually one of my sits of the week as well. So you stole that from me, Jasani. For all the reasons you said.
Hey, Brandon, you see what happened to your Georgia linebacker, man? He turned himself to the police. He's being charged with a felony. Yeah, he done.
Dang, I did not see that.
And DJ Moore is also a name that we will be talking about later because I remember when I was seeing on Reddit, people were like, well, this is good. Sam Darnold was playing like the worst quarterback in the NFL. Now they get to kick the tires on PJ Walker. And someone said, I've watched PJ Walker play. Those tires are flat.
Yeah, what do you need? There's a reason why PJ Walker is the backup. First of all, it's not like, let's see what our rookie has. PJ, no. Well, you see, I think he's played a couple of games.
Yeah. Think about it this way: they've seen enough to say that Sam should be the starting quarterback.
Like no matter what, it's a downgrade.
But PJ Walker's only on the team because Matt Rule's there.
I think he has 1 touchdown in his career and 4 picks. So I don't know how many games he's played.
He went in when Teddy got hurt.
Yeah, he played 1 game last year against Detroit, or like 1.5 games, and he stunk. They won, and it was not because of him; it was in spite of him.
In spite.
Yeah. Well, so your DJ Moore got stolen. Though. What's another name that you have as a sit?
Well, it's a very fitting name. It's actually going to be Michael Carter. He's had the last 4 weeks. He's basically showed a solid RB2 floor. He's basically getting you double-digit points and games that you don't expect him to get any points at all. So it's crazy that he is actually producing for a pretty good stretch. However, that's not to say that I don't think this is going to be something that he will be producing in the future. But for this week specifically, he's got the Bills, who are probably, I think, number 1 against running backs. If they aren't, they're at least top 5. And I think this is not going to be a good week for any team going against the Bills because they just got embarrassed. And now they're going to seek revenge. And it's a divisional matchup, and it's the Jets. And I think the Bills will have their way with them and probably stuff the run. And it's probably stuff all things that the Jets try and do. So I'm benching Michael Carter if I can, for sure.
I mean, I think Mike White's playing, so anything is possible.
He is icy.
Because I think the other quarterback didn't throw as many checkdowns as White does. So I think Michael Carter will still stay super involved in the passing game, but
yeah,
you're not running on the Bills this game. I mean,
hey man, if you're a third string running back, you can't be throwing checkdowns. You gotta let it fly.
You gotta prove it.
Yeah, but you got your chance, and you said, "I'm letting it fly."
fair enough. But yeah, I like that. Yeah, the Bills are definitely about to go on their warpath because Josh Allen got to prove that he's the best Josh Allen.
Oh yeah, Josh Allen's definitely about to go crazy.
What if he's just done? Like he just never get again.
They're just like
Josh Allen sapped his powers.
He sapped all his powers.
The other Josh Allen turns into Defensive Player of the Year. That'd be crazy.
Carries the Jags to the playoffs.
Yeah, the Jags turns into the Bills.
2 years in a row that a Josh Allen just took the league by storm and got way better out of nowhere. It's crazy. All right, so going back to you, Jasani, what's another name that you have that you are fading this upcoming week?
For me, it would be Chris Carson. He just got activated off IR with a neck injury. I always give it a week or 2 when people come off injuries. And Chris Carson's always injured, so the chances of him re-aggravating it is pretty high. He's such a physical running back. So yeah, I'm off Chris Carson for this week.
Yeah, he's going to try to truck stick somebody. He's going to lower that head like that, and all it takes is one pop, and he might be Cam Chancellor levels of done. Especially with the neck injury, that's really scary too, But
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be willing to bet money that he misses more games than he plays the rest of the way. It's bound to happen. So what about you, Brandon? Who's another guy that
I got one more sit, and that's gonna be D-Hop if he does end up being able to play at the end of this week. I mean, he's coming off a hamstring injury, as we all know, can be tweaked at any given moment. He also hasn't been the D-Hop that we've all known and loved in the last couple of years. So you can't really just start him and just expect a 20-point game anymore. He's kind of like, I hope he gets 15 points, at some point. So definitely got to worry about D-Hop a little bit. Tack onto that, he does have an injury designation this week. And then Kyler has his own worries as well. Kyler is also not 100%. So not too excited about that. And then along with that, there's the matchup that isn't great in Green Bay. They're pretty good against wide receivers, fantasy wide receivers. So I think if there's any week that you're going to be comfortable benching D-Hop, it should be this week.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I agree. James Martin asked, would y'all trade Tony Pollard for Chuba Hubbard? I own CMC.
Yeah.
You got to have your handcuff, man.
Zeke's a tank.
But Zeke is injured right now.
He's been injured for the past couple weeks. I've been waiting.
I know. And look at his carries. His carries has gone down. I think he had like 10 carries last week.
He has a bruised knee. He'd be all right, man.
I don't know. I think if you look at his carries, like you're right. He's been injured for like the last 3 weeks, but it's been like 20, and then it's been like 16, and then last week was 10.
And even if Zeke goes down, you don't think they're still really gonna be running like that, or Dak is going to throw.
And it's Atlanta matchup.
Oh, yeah,
there might be a chance that we'll see like Pollard in because why not?
Yeah, but if you have CMC, you gotta have Chuba because it's fair to say at this point that
I agree. James Martin, you should do that trade.
Man, I was trying to get Chuba before seeing before, and that man Mike was not.
And he was dumb for not doing that trade.
All right, and so Jasani, do you have another sit that you would want to bring up?
No, that was all of them.
All right, well, we've now gone through who y'all are fading, so it's time to go into the final segment, and these are the buy, sell, drops, or holds. And a lot of these names have been brought up throughout this show, all of them but one, in all honesty. So the first name I want to talk about is Javonte Williams. You said it earlier, 17 carries, 111 yards. Would you try to capitalize off of people maybe thinking that was his breakout game and get rid of him? Would you look to buy him, or would you just stand pat? What are your thoughts on Javonte moving forward?
I would definitely say he's a sell candidate just because unless Melvin's out of the picture, I don't think he's going to get the necessary amount of carries or look for him to be a valuable running back option. Now, if Melvin gets COVID or he gets hurt, Javonte's instant like RB2, RB1. But right now, you just can't really bank on that. So if somebody says you offer, I think you kind of have to pull the trigger on that.
100% agree with what Jasani said and with his reasoning. You need Melvin out of the picture, and it looks like Melvin's running good, and he looks pretty healthy. And so they're going to keep using him, and they're probably going to give him the more valuable touches in the end. And I think people, if they just look at the box score and just look at the numbers, they wouldn't be too disappointed in what they see in Javonte, so they might be willing to trade something for him. I'd be willing to sell him for sure.
Yeah. Pat tried to trade me Cordero and a third-round pick for Javonte in our Dynasty League, but Dynasty's a different game. I had to hold
Dynasty's a whole different game, bro.
I had to hold on to that one.
Cordero ain't about to be nothing next year.
Falcons again next year. He needs to be, but he might not.
The Falcons have to take him back. Unless he's chasing the bag. Unless he goes and chases a bag.
Oh, he's gonna capitalize his bag, man.
Miami's gonna throw some.
I am Alvin now. How much you paid Alvin? I want more than that.
He's got to be the first running back in history to resurge his career at 39.
Well, right now, the thing I saw is that right now he still has less than 300 yards rushing on the season.
So he's just a wide receiver.
Yeah, he's graded out as the best receiving back in the NFL right now. which
Dang,
who would have thought
CMC.
the wide receiver playing running back?
Hey, if CMC was playing, he probably would be beating him.
Yeah, maybe. I
At
mean,
least helps that he's gone.
if Cordero didn't make that last play at the end of the game, I would have won in fantasy last week. That 60-yard catch and run, I literally lost by 6 points. That was 7 points right there.
That's
and
tragic.
the bonus from hitting 100 yards in our league. That's tough.
Sad. That's tough.
So then the next name I want to talk about, this is kind of a sleeper low-key tight end that no one's really been talking about. But Dan Arnold got traded from the Panthers to the Jaguars, and he seems to have carved out a solid role with Trevor where it feels like he is seeing a very consistent amount of targets, So how do you guys feel about Dan Arnold moving forward? Do you think that he's someone that you should definitely be trying to pick up and rostering and that, you can start him? Or do you think that
if you're streaming tight ends, 100% you should pick him up. He's probably one of the best options you could have out there if you're sitting there switching tight ends every single week. He's probably the safest receiving option on the Jags, I would think. And I mean, he at any given week should give you like 10 to 12 points. So
yeah,
that's what you want from a tight end.
I 100% agree. He's definitely most likely on your waivers, so I would pick him up if you can. Trevor's under constant distress, like every drop back, so he's always going to be looking for that check down or his tight end are the two closest to him. So I definitely think Dan Arnold has a nice little niche for himself, and he was decently good for the Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I definitely think. The connections just only get better.
And he's better than most options out there.
Yeah, because you're probably looking at like guys like Tyler Conklin on the Vikings and
even Tyler Higbee. Like he hasn't really been doing anything.
Yeah, you would have expected better. Tyler Higbee has been a little bit of a disappointment, but he's not. Same with Gerald Everett. Remember how we were talking about him?
Wait. Pete Carroll is like the cap god because he literally was like, Gerald Everett might be our secret weapon this year. He might be the best, like most athletic receiver I've ever seen in my life. And then here we are. I don't even know if he has a target this season.
Yeah, he baited my ass, man. He got me. I picked up the dicey.
Gerald Everett's gonna be my breakout character.
Yeah, man.
I thought he was the guy to get. That if you didn't draft a tight end, you just take it. You're gonna be like, watch this.
You're gonna be happy.
Yeah, me too. Because what's his name did really well, and it was
Disley. Yeah,
until he tore his Achilles. So I was like, Joe Evans definitely better than Disley.
Yeah, and then he's getting the coach's praise. Pete Carroll's giving him the best player he's ever seen.
Playing with Russ, like, come on, man.
I remember like 2 or 3 years ago, Pete Carroll said that this is before DK was on the team, so it was just Lockett as the wide receiver one. I remember him saying that he thought Chris Carson was the best receiver on the team, or had the best hands on the team. Is what he said, and everyone was like going crazy, like Chris Carson's going to get all these targets this year. No, but yeah, the best hands on the team equals like 2 targets a game. Okay,
Russ doesn't throw checkdowns.
But I just learned to never do a trust coaches in preseason.
Yeah, man.
Anything.
Bro, Jasani, has Jonathan Taylor still hasn't gotten 20 carries yet in the game?
No, he
hasn't. Should I trade Robert Woods and DeAndre Swift for Cordero and McLaurin? I would do that. I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I would too.
Oh, it's Clap Nuts.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Clap Nuts.
What's up, man? I agree. You're basically at this point, you're kind of trading the idea of Woods, and you're basically trading Swift for Patterson and McLaurin, right? That's not how you guys see it. Because like Woods he hasn't been the best this year. He's kind of
he's just been solid.
You kind of just have the idea that he could be good, and that's kind of what you're trading.
I look at it as an upgrade on both parts. Oh, he said
Swift.
Oh, Brandon Cooks and DeAndre Swift.
I'd still do it.
Yeah.
That doesn't change anything.
Yeah, I think that's even better in your case.
You're basically doing Swift for Cordero and McLaurin. And Swift, I mean, we just talked about him. He's a wide receiver for that running back, so he's killing it. And McLaurin, should be.
McCoy's suffering from his quarterback.
Yeah, but he's going to continue to suffer from his quarterback. That's not going to change.
I mean, I think apparently Fitz is getting an MRI this week. There's talks that he might just be done playing football, period. So you can't really bank on.
I mean, yeah, he's like 34 or something like that.
Oh, he might be older. He might be like 36, 37.
Yeah, I mean, it's about time. Because he knows he's just going to get picked up by another team to be a backup. It's like, why keep doing that?
And everyone wants to see Heineke play. No one wants to see Fitz come back.
I might even put Kyle Allen in. I don't know. We'll see.
Alex McBuckets.
Yeah, question coming in. Should I trade Jeremy McNichols for Jarvis Landry? No.
I would.
Bro, Jarvis is a bum. I don't care what anybody says.
Bro, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do with Jeremy McNichols, dude? That's literally a three-headed beast.
You're gonna wait for him to learn how to stiff arm people.
What are you gonna do with Jeremy McNichols, dude? Jarvis Landry, you could at least say he's like, quote unquote, the wide receiver one on this team.
But
what are you gonna give me that face for? Who's the wide receiver one then?
He is the wide receiver one, but so is
okay. Nah, Odell was not though. Odell was seeing like 3 targets a game.
Hey, look, I would stick with Jeremy.
Right, how did Jeremy Nichols get beat out by AP, who hasn't played football like a year?
Hey, he didn't get beat out. AP just got a touchdown. He had almost.
No, I agree. He didn't get beat out, but they have 2 separate roles. That AP is not going to touch Jeremy McNichols' role, and Jeremy's most likely not going to touch AP's role, right?
Yeah.
And then there is Dante Foreman. Is it Dante Foreman?
Yeah, he looked like the best running back.
Yeah, and there is Dante Foreman, who low-key looked like the best running back, who also could be getting carries. So now we're looking at a 3-headed committee.
Yeah, but
or the guy that quote unquote is technically the wide receiver one on his team. That's what I'm saying. You have to take Jarvis Landry in this situation.
All right, McBuckets, listen to them.
McBuckets.
Wait, Jasani, are you on my side or Jalen's side?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jeremy Nichols, I think useless, to be honest. Like, at least Jarvis. I mean, I know Jarvis is hurt, but, I mean.
He's back from injury. Or he's coming back from injury.
Jarvis is in a better situation.
I wouldn't be starting Jarvis regardless, but
I definitely wouldn't be starting McNichols.
Wouldn't be starting.
All right, y'all just gotta wait. McNichols is a pass catcher, and somehow the Titans have not had to throw the ball all year. I don't understand how it works, but
it's because y'all's defense decided that y'all were like, all right, Derek's not playing. I guess we'll start playing defense. And now you guys have like a top 10 defense all of a sudden.
or Derek's out. We actually got to start trying. That's crazy.
Yeah. Imagine if this defense was playing how it's playing now and you guys had Derek.
Nichols would have like 20 points a game because he'd be catching hella screens. AJ would be going off. Hey, I'd be all for it. But all right. So the next name I want to bring up, we mentioned him earlier in the show. His quarterback, who was looking like the steal, the Panthers traded a 2nd, 4th, and a 6th rounder for Sam Darnold, and he was looking like he was realizing his potential. He was proving the critical case theory to be correct. And the past couple of weeks, he's looked worse than he ever did when he was on the Jets, in all honesty. And DJ Moore has suffered from that. Buy, sell, drop, hold, what are you doing with DJ Moore moving forward?
As a DJ Moore owner, I have been currently trying to ship him out, put in little packages.
Who's been buying?
I just got, test the waters to see. He's still a top 15 player, so, still got some value. Even with Sam Darnold being Sam Darnold, he still gets the most targets on the team. Robert Anderson is literally nothing on that team.
Yeah.
So it's really DJ Moore and CMC, so that's value in itself, but Sam Darnold is hurt. Don't know if that's better or worse, to be honest, because how can you get worse than 11 picks?
PJ Walker.
Yeah. If you're that second string guy, you're gonna throw it to your number one receiver every time.
You're gonna throw it to CFC, exactly.
PJ.
I think he's a sell.
Yeah, I would definitely say sell or hold.
Yeah.
I don't
I
really
wouldn't
see
buy.
any upside, just
Well,
unless it's purely based on matchups.
I think the only upside you could really convince yourself of right now, and this is you have to do a little bit of convincing, is that when CMC is on the team, the offense is like as a whole a lot better. So like even with when CMC was playing, DJ Moore is having like insane games. And then, when CMC was out, you thought DJ Moore would then get all of these targets, and he actually had like worse production. So it's like, okay, maybe with CMC returning to the lineup, maybe this offense will get moving. They'll focus on CMC. DJ Moore will be open for more targets. I mean, yet like I said, you got to do a little bit convincing to yourself, but maybe you could sell yourself on that, right?
Yeah, more efficient offense, better,
Yeah.
more valuable targets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He
I
won't
would
be
fall for that BS. I'll tell you.
PJ Walker is all you need to say and send it.
Hey, PJ to DJ. That's all you got to say. PJ to DJ.
PJ to DJ. Yeah, no, that's a narrative. That's all I need.
All right. And so the next name I want to bring up, Ayuk. He showed signs of life. He finally looks like Kyle Shanahan released him from the doghouse, and he had what was easily by far his best game of the season. So how do we feel about him moving forward?
So I'm not convinced of Brandon Ayuk. I still think Debo's the man. Kittle's coming back. He's even more of that man. I don't know what's up with Brandon Ayuk. I think this is just a blimp. Everybody has those kind of good games. And it also like they were getting smoked by the Cardinals, so they were constantly passing. So yeah. Also, what's his name? Debo was limited by calf injury, so I might have to do something with it also. So yeah, I am not on the Brandon Ayuk hype train just yet.
I'm also not on the train just yet, but Kyle Shanahan did have like a quote unquote conversation with Brandon Ayuk like last week apparently, and essentially laid to rest whatever this doghouse situation was. He basically said that like he didn't think that Brandon Ayuk was like practicing hard enough, and now and like even like teammates said the same thing, and like he kind of like dogs it at practice. So then apparently this last week he did not dog it at practice, and then here we are in a game where he's like he has a crazy game.
It took him 8 weeks to start trying and practice.
I guess, yeah. Like literally that's like it. And that's what like I don't know if that's all narrative and conspiracy theory at this point or what. But that's what I hear. That's what I hear in the streets. It was practice. We're talking about
remember when
practice.
Kyle Shanahan ran Dante Pettis out of town?
Yes. When Dante Pettis, it was like his second year in the league too.
Yeah, and he was a second round pick, so it's not like he was a bum.
And he was good, kind of.
I mean,
he had production at his rookie year.
I mean, yeah.
Had a little petty.
He got practicing for 8 weeks. I don't even know how you're on the team at that point.
Apparently, he's just been dogging it. I don't know what that means.
I mean, but the thing was, like, I didn't really understand how he was in a doghouse because he was still on the field. I just thought he was bad.
I guess it's just like if you ain't gonna practice on the field, you gotta practice at the game.
Kyle Shanahan said, "Hey Jimmy, you want to keep a starting job? Don't throw it to that man.
You gotta take that sack or you gotta throw it to Debo."
That's quarterback for
That's crazy. All right, and then the last name I want to bring up is James Conner. So I guess with Chase Edmonds' injury being a multi-week injury, would we say that he's a buy or
fire him up?
have him hold?
Yeah.
I don't know how much I'd really be willing to spend on him in terms of buying, but if you have him, he's yours. Hold him, and if you could sell him for an RB2 type value, then I would take that as well.
Would you trade him?
I would definitely say he's at his highest right now, and people might be getting into the hype. Yeah, I mean, I'm always there's nobody's untradeable in my eyes.
Would you trade him for Saquon?
No.
Is Saquon even like slated to return?
They're on their bye, and I think since they didn't put him on IR, I think he'll be back.
I would trade him for Saquon. just because I'm
I don't
ignorant.
know.
And I would
I
want
don't know.
to see Saquon on my team.
I think at that point you just change.
Would you trade Saquon for James Conner if you had Saquon and you?
If I had
Oh.
Saquon and my team was in the dumps and I really needed a win,
yeah,
I would.
Let's say you have his back. You have the backup as well.
Devontae
Booker.
Yeah, you have Booker.
Yeah, he's hurt too.
Like I said, they're on bye this week, so they aren't playing. Meanwhile, James Conner has that 17-point projection. Should see all the work. It'd be a move where you're like, you have James Conner, you might as well capitalize. And the Saquon owner is probably desperate because that was your first round pick, I would assume. And
yes, there is a good chance you get James Conner for the remainder of the regular season. You get him for the next 4 weeks. There's a good chance you get him as
and that's a gamble where he could end up being better than Saquon the rest of the way, in all honesty.
100%. Better offense, for sure. More scoring opportunities. Yeah, you're probably going to watch James Conner over Saquon. That's disgusting. That's awful. I cannot.
Never know years when I think that trade would happen.
I dropped James Conner last week, dude.
I dropped him from the Bandit team with Saquon. But that was the last name to bring up. So
I have some names I could bring up that are kind of like injury-related guys.
Things y'all want to talk about?
Yeah. So Kamara was held out of practice today, and apparently it's supposed to be a mild high ankle sprain, which we all know and love to be about 2 weeks to 4 weeks, which we all know and love means Mark Ingram.
Yeah, you got to pick up 14. You got to pick up.
Matt picked up Mark Ingram. When I saw that, I was like, all right, man, that's not.
I mean, he had to. He had Alvin. He should have had him all along.
I was thinking about it, but I was like, there ain't nobody on my team that's worth to drop Mark Ingram for.
Yeah. I almost dropped Russell Gage, and I probably should have dropped Russell Gage. Not thinking about it.
Almost dropped AP. But then I saw it like in the Outlook. They said he might be RB2. I was like, gotta keep that.
Yeah, dude. I was looking at Russell Gage's Outlook, and it was like he should be the wide receiver 1 until Calvin returns, and I was like, I know this is a lie, but they got me. I'm gonna keep them. Yeah, so that's interesting. I guess Mark Ingram might be the starter for the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I don't know if that's
be a fairly productive role.
Do you just avoid all Saints options at this point? Who do you start? Name one Saints player.
Marquez Callaway, the wide receiver 1.
No, you know,
You
the defense probably.
Yeah. I was like, you start the Saints D, even though I just dropped them.
Yeah, like you got to hope that their offense can keep them off the field. All right, I have another name. And we kind of already talked about him. I kind of already spoiled it. But Zeke, injured, saw 10 carries last week, and then has a cake matchup in Atlanta this week. He's barely gotten 10 points in the last 2 weeks, full PPR. Would you bench him if you had him? Would you be starting him?
I mean,
it's hard to bench Zeke, and also, Tyron Smith got hurt in the last game, and he usually runs on either Tyron Smith or Zach Martin's side. So Tyron Smith is out. That's a big one.
And so it's like they have that, and they have no problem giving Pollard carries if they need to, or if they just want to.
But you also have to remember, like, the game script. They weren't moving the ball at all last game, and they were doing 30 points in the third quarter. So they just have to give up running.
That shouldn't happen in the Atlanta game.
Yeah, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. The Falcons' defense is not comparable to the Broncos' defense.
So not worried about Zeke and his possible injury and seeing 10 carries?
I would look at him more as a buy low candidate than a sell candidate if I had him.
Okay. Yeah, I think that answers it.
I think part of the reason why he only got 10 carries because he was smoked by the Broncos. They were down like 30-0 at one point, so kind of hard to run the ball at that point.
Oh, we have a Zeke question from Ethan. Should I trade Zeke and Jacoby Myers for Henderson and Mclaren? Daryl Henderson's banged up too right now, isn't he?
Yeah. Dude, Jacoby in our league, Jacoby's a free agent in our league, so I would do that.
It's not a bad trade by any means. I look at it as Daryl Henderson and Mclaren for Zeke. I look at
for sure. Like Jacoby's not it.
If you need wide receivers, I would do that.
I think I would do it.
Henderson's not that big of a downgrade from Zeke than it is from Jacoby to Scary.
Yeah, I think you're winning just for the McLaurin alone. Yeah, I would do it. Hopefully that guy accepts.
Yeah. Hope he doesn't revert that shit.
All right, and then I have one more guy that's a big name that hasn't been. Well, I guess I got two more names I could bring up, but D-Hop, coming off an injury, hasn't been thrilling this year. Kyler might be injured. Are we worried about D-Hop in the future? Sell?
Yeah.
Sell if you can.
Unfortunately, D-Hop was my man, but yeah, I mean, he hasn't had a 100-yard game this season. He's getting older. The injuries are racking up more, and there's just a lot more weapons on the team. He's never been surrounded by this much talent on a team before.
AJ Green.
When I don't think Kyle's ever thrown to AJ Green again, man. He's never gonna look his way again. The disappointment in his eyes when he got picked off from that.
When he just didn't finish his route.
Yeah, when he just stopped.
He was running a route.
The Windows reset button.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you can get for D-Hop at this point, which is unfortunate because if you had D-Hop, you either traded a lot for him or you drafted him with a high pick. So you definitely not gonna get value in return. But I mean, right now he's injured, and I just don't know. And hamstrings are such a tacky.
They linger.
Injury. Yeah, they linger. And with D-Hop, like for wide receivers cutting, yeah.
And D-Hop is at that age where hammy injuries. You don't just blink an eye to it. Just like, oh, he'll be fine. It's like, it's hammy.
D-Hop was always that guy who never got hurt either.
Yeah. I agree. I think he's a big sell candidate. And then my last big name that I want to bring up, Stefan Diggs. He hasn't been hurt at all. He's actually been 100% pretty much healthy, except for his numbers. You might think he might be a little injured or something. His expectations every single week, he's basically been below expectations and below projection. I don't even know if he's really met his projection once or even beat it, maybe once or twice this year. Very disappointing for him. And then, the last recent weeks it's like not trending up at all. So what do you guys on Diggs?
Buy low. I'll still gamble on Diggs' talent and Josh Allen's talent, eventually resurfacing together. If you want to give them to me for the week, Brandon. I mean, that's just like a kind of gamble I would personally be willing to take,
So you see him as a buy low candidate?
Yeah. Now, like, I wouldn't trade, like, on my team, I have A.J. Brown, Keenan Allen, and Michael Pittman. I wouldn't trade any of those guys one for one for Diggs, But, there's a tier where you could, like, would you rather have Diggs or Mike Williams moving forward?
Diggs.
Probably Diggs still.
Even
though none of the numbers this year would show that.
Yeah, none of the numbers aren't say that makes sense, but like I would agree. I'd rather have Diggs than Mike Williams. Buy low. I'm always looking for deals.
We'll see.
You want Aaron Jones?
Maybe. You scared of my running backs this week. I could already see it.
Yeah, man. Dearness and Darrell Williams got me shit quaking in my boots. Hey, I'll give you David Montgomery for Dearness right now. Just got to be willing to lose this week.
All right. Some of the trade.
He's on bye, so he's really not playing.
Yes, that's all the names I have.
Do you have any names you want to bring up, Jasani? Anyone you want to talk about?
No, I think that was all the names I was actually thinking of.
All right. Thanks to all our viewers. Make sure you press that like and subscribe button. We do this for y'all. We love the fan engagement. We love talking to y'all. Never stop commenting. That's our favorite part, is seeing if people are trying to finesse y'all or if you're trying to finesse others and giving our feedback. So we love the trade talk. Make sure you, like I said, like, subscribe, follow us on the YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Just Good Network. You can find our Twitter, Fantasy Squad Podcast as well. Follow that. Follow us on Instagram, same name. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, watching, and everyone have a good week. Get some dubs. Don't be a sucker.